Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Now this is going to be another one within my mid fundamentals series. I actually believe we're up to episode 5. Now this one's going to be all about jungle tracking for laners. Not just for mid lane, this is actually for every single lane, although there's a few things that are just specific for mid lane, but it's actually going to be able to up every single person's game or everyone's understanding of the jungle at least. Now this video is going to be quite in-depth, quite complicated, so I highly recommend that you either watch it a bunch of times, or maybe you have a notepad next to you, maybe you discuss it with a friend. It is quite detailed because in order to understand this concept, and if you really want to apply this stuff to get to Challenger, Grandmaster, or High Elo, you really need to understand the nitty-gritty. Now guys, the upsides of being able to track the jungle are basically limitless. I've always thought over time, how does a player like Dopa play Orianna and Twisted Fate in one of the most aggressive regions in the world and just never seem to die? And I've always thought about this, and yes, his wards are really good, he knows how to manage his wave, yes, but he is a master of jungle tracking. He knows exactly where junglers are, and if you actually watch his gameplay, it's like a series of beautiful movements according to the enemy jungler's location. Now, something to note is that if you are able to track the jungler, it's great for your own safety. It's great for the optimization of your warding. It's also great for the ability to be able to ping the enemy jungler's location, which can actually not just help you, but every single person on your own team. And now everything will start to make a lot more sense as we go through this video, but this is a really awesome skill to learn. Now let's start with actually talking about the difference between Hunter's Machete and Hunter's Talisman. Now this is a very important concept to actually understand, and you'd be surprised how many people don't know the difference between these two items. Now, Hunter's Machete is a lot better at killing single target camps like Gromp, Blue Buff, and Red Buff. And this is because Hunter's Machete actually grants bonus on-hit physical damage with your basic attacks, whereas the Hunter's Talisman on the other end actually is better for AoE camps like Raptors, because the extra damage you get, actually burn damage you get from Talisman, procs off all damage, not just auto attacks. And the beautiful thing about this item specifically is that you actually get HP off every target that is getting burnt. And the other benefit is that you get passive mana regeneration while being in the jungle or in the river. So it's really good for a lot of these farm-oriented junglers that want to stay healthy in terms of HP and mana. And we'll get into the difference in terms of the path, what these different paths actually look like. But for now, let's actually begin with talking about, and actually going to show you a tier list, or a bit of like a tier list here, of the junglers that take Machete versus Talisman, and then the unique junglers. Now, what do we see here? If we take a look at the Hunter's Machete junglers, we have junglers that are very more auto attack based, and more single target damage, like Lee Sin, we got Jarvan, we got Rengar, Xin Zhao, Camille, a lot of these very auto attack based champions, because again, they want to utilize that basic, extra on hit damage with your auto attacks. Whereas Hunter's Talisman, you'll notice there's a lot more AoE going on here. We got champions like Echo, Sejuani, Zac, Hecarim, Karthus, all these, a lot more AoE champions that generally want to farm through the early game. They benefit a lot more from those items and are they're very much less level 3 ganking junglers. And then we've also got the unique junglers that can basically go either Machete or Talisman. I may have missed a few here, but I'll get into these specifically later on in the video. Now what we're going to do, guys, we're actually now going to go into the specific paths that make up the difference between Machete junglers and Talisman junglers. So where we're going to start, guys, is we're going to start by talking about the jungle paths for Hunter's Machete junglers. Now, there's a few main paths, and after it will start to real click, you'll start to understand the theory behind it, but it's very self-explanatory. Again, what do we know about Hunter's Machete? We know that they really don't want to do Raptors because of the lack of AoE in the kit, plus they're not getting that extra those extra stats from the Talisman with the AoE camps. So generally what they want to be doing is doing camps like Red, Krugs, Gromp, and Blue. So the first standard path for these junglers like Lee Sin, Jarvan, etc. is Red into Krugs, then they'll make their way onto top side to get their Blue, because they really want to get level 3 as fast as possible, and 3 camps gets you level 3, and then they'll get to this point where they'll be looking to head into river by between 2 minutes 40 and 3 minutes with this path. So again, pretty self-explanatory if you've watched my other videos. Now with this point, what do we know? we know that Scuttle here doesn't spawn till 3:15. So there's usually a window between, 20 seconds, 20 or 15 seconds where their Scuttle hasn't spawned and they're in Trop River at the moment. So in this moment, they have to decide generally in this moment, they actually look for a gank top. They might look for a gank mid. They might, walk over here, clear some vision with a sweeper if they have a sweeper. They'll generally look to do something while they wait for this Scuttle to spawn. Then they'll look to contest this Scuttle at 3:15, and then after this point, a lot of the time, they might look for another gank. Then they'll either just probably go back to their wolves, finish their wolves and their gromp, and then look to reset. Now, something to note here is these Machete junglers very rarely go into here and look to invade these raptors because they're really slow at doing raptors. So that is something we'll talk a little bit more about Talisman junglers, but you generally don't see them doing this sort of thing. Now, the second path is very, very similar. It's where they want to get level 3 as soon as possible. They want to go red into blue, into gromp, and then again into river. They will get into river probably slightly earlier, again, than the last path, but still between 2 minutes 40 and 3 minutes. And then at this point, again, the same thing. Look for a gank top, look for a gank mid, get the Scuttle as it spawns at 3:15, and again, probably look to go back to these camps and then go straight back onto their rubber banded camps, which are these Krugs on bot side. Now, the last camp, obviously, the last path, which is, again, pretty self-explanatory, is just the mirrored of the other side, which is just blue, gromp onto Krugs here, which is the exact same thing, just on the other side here. Now, let's actually talk about Hunter's Talisman junglers. Now, Hunter's Talisman junglers, because they really want to be doing raptors, and it's a lot more efficient for them to do raptors, there's basically 2 or 3 overarching jungle paths that they can do. So again, think of these types of champions like Shyvana, Zac, Echo, a lot of these AoE type champions. So the first one is where they do red into Krugs, into Raptors, into River. And this is what we call like a 3 camp topside. This is what we call just a standard 3 camp topside. They'll be level 3 off these 3 camps, and they'll be looking to go into River, again, around that same time, around 2:40 to 3 minutes. And this is where they'll begin using that little brief window where the Scuttle hasn't spawned to either maybe get a ward deep, to either look for a gank mid or top, and then secure the Scuttle that spawns at 3:15. And then after they get this, they might invade, they might reset, and then go back onto their bot side, or they might just straight loop back straight to their bot side. Now, the other standard path is, again, red, Krugs, Raptors, into blue. This is where they might go for Scuttle, ganks, finish off their camps, then reset. Now, there's basically, you might ask them, how do I know what they're going to do? Now, this camp, this is what we call more of like a full clear, where they're just doing all their camps. This is generally the case when you're versing more farming-oriented junglers that are Talisman junglers. So there's a difference between the junglers that are like Gragas. Yes, they can do a full clear, but again, at level 3, they're quite strong, right? So they can, generally these level 3 Talisman junglers opt in for these 3 camps and then look for a gank, rather than these full clear junglers like Zac, like Shyvana, like Karthus, and Mumu, who basically just want to do a full clear. So just to reiterate one more time, these farming junglers want to do red into Krugs, into Raptors, and sometimes they literally just go straight into wolves, into blue. But a lot of the time they actually check their blue first, just in case they've gotten invaded. Or sometimes they'll actually go straight into Scuttle first, secure the Scuttle, place a ward or something, then go and finish their 3 camps and then reset and want to come back onto their top side. Now, again, this is pretty standard stuff. It makes a lot of sense, right? Because these are the junglers that want more gold. They want to utilize their AoE by getting raptors. And, they're going to be farming a lot more. So, and something else to think about versus Talisman junglers, and which is, it's an interesting concept, but it makes a lot of sense, is let's just say they do this path where they do the red Krugs, Raptors onto their bot side. Maybe they get their blue, their Scuttle. And again, at the same time, they'll be looking to gank both of these lanes potentially. They could be looking to gank these lanes at level 3 at the same time, or between, 2 minutes 50 or 2 minutes 40 and 3 minutes. Really depends how many camps they do, but more than likely around 3 minutes, because they're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4 camps rather than just 3 like the Machete junglers from before. But again, they'll be still looking to gank mid or bot around that same window of time. And we'll talk about warding in a second, but let's just bear with me for a second. The other thing about these sorts of junglers is that because they have Talisman, if they're versing Machete jungler who's just done the 3 camp top side, they actually have an opportunity while they're here to actually, instead of just looking to gank, they can actually counter jungle these Raptors. Because again, they have the benefit of being able to do Raptors a lot easier than these Machete junglers. So a lot of the time, if these Talisman junglers, they'll actually look to invade, and it's the exact same for the blue side, they'll look to invade here or here, knowing that the Machete junglers actually skipped this camp. So it is just something to think about. It is a possibility. So a lot of the time they spend a little bit longer on the map than some of these Machete junglers. Now let's actually talk a little bit about warding for these Machete junglers and Talisman junglers. So let's talk about warding for Machete junglers. Now, let's actually look at this through the frame of a red side mid lane. Say I'm playing, anything here. I'm this little dude here. Now, if I'm versing a Machete jungler, there's basically 2 main warding spots. There's the dot brush at 230, or there's the, over here, just outside Raptors at 230. These are the 2 main warding spots. Now, let's actually talk a bit about why or when what are the trade-offs for both of these, what's the advantages and disadvantages. Now, let's start with the dot brush at 230. Now, what do we know given our previous knowledge? Say I'm a red side mid laner. We know that if I'm versing something like a Machete jungler who, on this side, a lot of the time they're going to be looking to do, again, 3 camp into top side, or, like I said before, 1, 2, 3 into top side, again, 3 camps into top side, and they'll be looking to walk into river around 240 to 230. Now, sorry, for 3 minutes. Sorry about that. Sorry, that's a little confusing. And now the reason I say ward here at 230 is if you ward here later at 240 or 250, there is a chance that you actually might have to blow flash because this guy is already going to be in the river. Now the benefit of warding here is that, like we know, these guys are going to be looking to either, and before the scuttle spawns, they're going to be either looking to gank top or gank mid. Now what this ward is actually going to do, it's going to give you safety from this ward, this potential gank before this scuttle spawns. So, you're going to be very, very safe to just chill in mid lane. But more importantly, when this guy starts scuttle, you're going to actually be able to see this jungler on scuttle, which is going to give information to every single person on the map. Again, I'm just assuming that every other person on your team is a bot and they have no idea about jungle tracking. And you can already see how if you're optimizing your warding and spotting out the enemy jungler, it's going to be helping everyone on the team. Now, if I put this at 230, this scuttle spawns at 315, maybe the scuttle walks this way, you're going to see this jungler. It's going to tell your bot lane that they're on an isolated 2v2. It's going to tell your jungler where he is and what's he doing. And it's going to tell your top laner that he's top side. Now, the benefit of warding here as well, you're going to see him if he actually tries to walk into the jungle and counter jungle or do some invade from behind you. It's also going to tell you if he walks, when he walks back into his jungle to do his camps. And you're just basically going to keep yourself safe. Now, let's talk about this ward over here on the other hand. Now, this ward over here outside the Raptors is again, another really nice ward. Now, the downside is if, again, the jungler does 3 camp topside, you're not going to see any information about where he is. But the benefit of this ward over here, guys, is that it actually allows you to heavy lean. I'm talking heavy lean onto this bot side. You can literally, and if you really want to play aggressive in your lane, you can heavy lean, and you can actually stand here and, harass them under tower. You can stand really, really heavy lean onto this side, knowing that you've got so much safety because of this ward. The other benefit of this ward is if for some reason the enemy jungler is next level, or maybe they do the 3 camp, red, blue gromp, they get to here, realize they can't contest this scuttle for some reason because the top laner or the mid laner or the jungler is trying to push them off, then they might loop around and go try and get this scuttle. You actually will see them here. Again, that's a very rare circumstance. That doesn't happen very often. But the main benefit of this ward is that you're able to play a lot more aggressive in mid lane. Because if you just have this warded, you're still going to be scared if you don't see the jungler. You're still going to be scared to lean, fully lean and play aggressive here. Because if you lean here, you can still kind of get ganked from over here and still a little bit sketchy. So basically, view it like this. This ward is the team. It's better for the team. This ward is probably better for you individually if you want to play aggressive. So again, both are quite preferential depending on what you like. But as long as you understand the theory behind them, they're both really, really good. Now let's talk a little bit. Actually, and before we go on to this, to the talisman warding, you'll note that, again, if the jungler does the standard, these Machete junglers are doing the standard 3 camp topside, look to gank, get their scuttle, finish off their remaining camps, reset, they're going to be coming back onto their bot side around 5-ish minutes. Now, by the time your ward expires, I believe it lasts 90 seconds, so 4 minutes. So this ward over here will expire around 4 minutes. You're going to have your second ward up. Now, as this ward actually expires, it's really, really good to, again, continue to put your next ward over here, because what it's actually going to do is when the jungler comes back onto their side over here, they're probably going to be looking to get their raptors this time. They're going to be looking to do maybe Krugs, or maybe straight from base into a lot of high elo junglers. They'll come straight out of base to get a pink ward here, then go to finish their camps. Or they're going to be doing Krugs, vision, red buff, and then continue to walk up topside. So you're going to be able to see if they walk into river, you're going to see if they're going to go topside, you're just going to get a lot of information. So your second ward of the game being here as well is really, really good, because you know they're going to be looking to get their rubber banded camps as they've respawned. And basically rubber banded camps means just the camp that's respawned that they've already killed off their first clear. Now let's talk a little bit about Talisman junglers and warding for Talisman junglers. So the 2 warding spots for Talisman junglers are, again, these raptors, and we'll talk about it as if we're a blue side mid laner this time, or over here, over like on this blue buff. Now again, it's the same thing. You want to be, we're talking as if these are both 2 minutes 30-ish wards. Now, let's start with this one over here. Now, if you're versing a Talisman jungler that is quite strong level 3, and maybe they opt in for 3 camp topside into potential ganks, we're talking like Gragas, maybe Echo, maybe Hecarim. These champions that aren't completely useless and don't always just want to do a full clear. I actually really like warding here at 2 minutes 30. Now, the reason warding here at 2 minutes 30 is so nice is because, again, you spot them out if they do the red, Krugs, Raptors into gank or into river, whatever. It's really, really nice. The other thing that's really beautiful about it is if they do opt in for the full clear, you actually get to see them here walk onto their bot side. So you 100% know that they're going to be on this side of the map for the next like 1 or 2 minutes. So you can just ping your team. He's 100% on bot side. Your top laner knows that he's an isolated 1v1, and then you're going to be all good. So it's a really, really solid way of spotting out the jungler. Now, if you're versing a more of a farm-oriented jungler that just basically wants to full clear, we're talking like a Shyvana, Karthus, Zac, any of these, Mumu, a lot of these full clear junglers, this ward is really, really nice. Now, I actually have a VOD I'm going to go over as an example in this video where I'm a mid laner. I actually ward over here versus a Graves who did a full clear at 2 minutes 30. And again, you'll spot a lot of these full clear junglers on this blue buff around 3-ish minutes, because again, they're going to be doing 4 camps, not 3 camps, so around 3 minutes. And what the benefit of this actually is that it gives your team a really, really big heads up about where he is. So you can actually we can potentially collapse on this guy if he goes for scuttle. Your team have plenty of warning about where he is, and it's a really good aggressive ward. So what actually happens, right? If I ward this at around 3 minutes, I'm going to spot, 2 minutes 30. I'm actually going to spot this guy killing his blue buff around 3 minutes. And what can happen, it actually can tell my jungler who he might be doing wherever he is, oh, I actually have time to loop back and collapse on him on this river and kill him at the scuttle, or push him off the scuttle and go for a double scuttle. I can also, given I know where he is, I can hack and press tab, count his CS, know which camps, how many camps he has, and maybe if you see him really low or something, that you can, punish him at his wolves or his gromp or something like that and push him out, blow his flash. It just gives your team so much information, and as well, by warding here, it actually really protects your bot lane, because a lot of the time, they're going to go from blue and then just straight looking for a bot gank, and it's going to be really, really nice for your bot lane. So, again, here, if you're, up here, if you're versing more of like an earlier pressure Talisman jungler, and here, if you're looking to verse more of like a full clear jungler. And that, again, both are really, really good. It really is just preference. And again, as long as you understand the theory behind it, they're super, super effective. And again, actually, the last thing I want to talk about is, again, the same concept. If you are a lot of these junglers who do these full clears, again, when you're using your second warding over here, so if we think about it, they do the 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, scuttle, look to gank, whatever, or do raptors, finish off their camps, reset, they want to be going back onto the same side to get their rubber banded camps. Again, if you're using your second ward up here, again on the raptors, you're going to get so much information about what they're doing, where they are, where they're headed. It's just a really, really good habit. So basically, if you follow this little, if you're following my theory here, I might be going a little fast, but if you can utilize your first two wards of the game super efficiently, like I'm telling you right here, you're basically going to give your team a massive, massive advantage. And this is exactly how you're going to be able to not die to ganks, allow your team not to die to ganks, give your jungle plenty of warning about where he is. You're just going to be that really annoying mid laner to verse in your solo queue games or even in your clash games. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few more specific, unique instances and go over a bunch of differing champions. Now, let's actually use our knowledge that I've actually spoken about so far in this video. Let's just talk about red side for a second. Now, there's actually 3 junglers in the game that are very good at soloing dragons. And these are Warwick, Olaf, and Shyvana. Right? And then let's take, for example, what their paths would be. So for a Warwick, he's a Machete jungler. So again, he'll probably be doing red, Krugs, blue, look for a gank, then secure the scuttle, go back, get his Gromp blue, maybe reset, go back to his top side. That's a pretty standard gank, pretty standard path. But for Warwick, remember, because he can actually solo dragon, a lot of the time they'll do this standard path, like we said, but what they can actually do off their first reset is instead of going back to their rubber banded camps, they can go straight to dragon and solo dragon. It's exactly same for Shyvana, who does a full clear, ends up here, maybe steals enemy raptors, whatever, ganks, resets. Instead of going to her top side, Shyvana can come straight out of base and look to secure this dragon and solo this dragon. So if you're versing any of these 3 champions, Olaf, Shyvana, Warwick, off your second ward, what you should actually do instead of warding here, you can actually sneak a ward outside the dragon pit. And you'll see them, if you see them start this dragon, you're going to be able to either kill them on the dragon, force them off, collapse on them, steal the dragon, whatever, and it's going to give your team massive amounts of information. And the thing that's so bad, if you spot them on this dragon and they're forced to go off, think about it. Their topside camps are the ones that have just came up, and they really want to go back onto their top side. They're probably going to be chunked from dragon as well. It actually ruins their game and their tempo completely. So this is actually a game-winning play if you can actually really do this. So, yeah, if you followed my theory so far, this is actually pretty easy to execute ward, and it's super, super effective. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about a few annoying solo queue junglers like Kindred, Shaco, Rek'Sai, etc., and talk about specifically what you need to do to verse these champions. So let's actually start with Kindred. Now, what makes Kindred so versatile and so unique is the fact that Kindred has insane terrain scaling. So by terrain scaling, it's just her ability to jump over walls. So because of this, Kindreds actually do this really unique path. They can do this really unique path because they start Machete as well. They can go red over this dragon wall and actually straight into a level 2 invade onto this blue and Gromp. And because Talisman jungle can't really do this, because again, if they have Talisman, they can't really efficiently do these camps, so they want to be doing more of these AoE camps. But for Kindred, you got to be very, very careful of this, because let's just say your jungler's playing Shyvana here or Zac and they're doing a full clear. They might get to here over here, all their camps are already gone, or Kindred actually can start killing them or blow their flash and just completely ruin the game. And this actually allows Kindred to get a double scuttle. So it can be really, really devastating for your jungler. So if you're versing a Kindred, I strongly recommend, say I'm red side here, is actually warding here to prevent the Kindred doing a level 2 vertical invade. But if your jungler's starting blue already, then it's not a big deal, because again, if they start these camps, then they're just going to do a full clear top side, and Kindred can't do this vertical clear because the camp's already going to be gone. So I wouldn't worry about it, but mainly if your jungler's starting on the opposite side. And again, the same goes if I'm a blue side mid laner here, and my jungler's starting red, the Kindred can just go red straight into this blue. So warding outside the pit, and when you would ward it level 1. Before you even get to lane, before the minions actually spawn, you'd ward it around 130-ish, whatever. You just ward outside this pit so it prevents this from actually happening. Let's talk about Rek'Sai. Now, as a mid laner, I'm sure you already know that Rek'Sai is one of the most annoying junglers in the entire game to verse. Now, what makes Rek'Sai so annoying? Well, Rek'Sai is very unique and annoying in the sense that he has very he can do very creative gank paths. And what's even more annoying is that even though he's a Machete jungler, he can do 3 camp bot side due to his kit. So a lot of the time, you actually see Rek'Sai do this sort of path where they'll do red into Krugs, into Raptors, and where then they actually start to look into River, where they can do these loop around ganks. They can, you know, tunnel from out of this side mid brush. They can actually go all the way over here and tunnel behind bot lane. They can do so many creative ganks. So even if you know what item he started, he can still do this really annoying 3 camp bot side. So, and the other really annoying thing about Rek'Sai is because he starts Machete, he can do this vertical jungle path really effectively because he can get this blue buff and this Gromp quite efficiently because he started Machete and not Talisman. Now, you may ask then, what do I ward if I'm playing, you know, if I'm playing mid lane on red side against the blue side, blue side Rek'Sai here, where do I ward? The best ward to actually do is ward Raptors at outside Raptors here at 230. Now, the beautiful thing about this ward is that either way, you're going to spot out Rek'Sai. Now, you're going to see, say you ward here at 230, it may be a little bit earlier just to be safe, 225. Let's just say you ward out here and you see these Raptors are up. Then you can basically tell that he's either done, he's done either red Krugs topside or, red, blue Gromp into topside, or maybe he's just on his way to do, blue Gromp and he's heading onto bot side. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that either way, you're either going to see him on Raptors and pathing into your team's jungle. You're going to see him do either skip Raptors because you'll see him on the way doing red, Krugs heading topside. Like either way, you're going to spot him out eventually. And even if you don't spot him, worst case scenario, you have a really, really solid ward and a really solid place to lean. Because this ward allows you to have some of the best leaning in the entire game. Because you can lean so aggressively knowing that, he's not here at all. So against Rek'Sai, always try and ward outside these Raptors at around 225, 230. And then you're going to be all set. And it's a really, really safe ward when versing Rek'Sai. Now, Olaf. Olaf is one of the most versatile junglers in the entire game for so many reasons. Number one, he's actually one of the few junglers that doesn't want a leash because he can keep his location of his jungle start completely hidden. Now, the reason being is because the way his passive works, the lower HP he is, the more attack speed he gets, right? So he can actually get really lower for camp, but it actually benefits him and actually increases the speed of his jungle clear. So you don't know where he starts. The other thing that makes Olaf super annoying is that he can start Machete or Talisman. Because if he starts Talisman, most likely he's going to be starting red and been doing he can do red Raptors or red 3 camp bot side into full clear. He can do so many different clears if he starts Talisman. More importantly, he can also start Machete and start blue and do blue, Gromp, red. He can do 3 camp into gank. And what's even more annoying than Olaf, because not only that he can start both items and can start anywhere leashless, is that he's so strong level 1 that he can also do level 1 invades, he can do level 2 invades, he can do level 3 invades, he can do anything he basically wants. He's actually he's the strongest jungler in the early game. Now, then you may ask him, what do I do? If he's so strong, then what do I do? My biggest advice for Olaf, say I'm a red side mid laner here, is again, ward Raptors at around 225 to 230. What this is going to do, because if you see him, these Raptors are up. Again, even if you don't see him at all and you have no information, you see these Raptors are up, you're going to have a really solid side to lean to. But best case scenario, you either see him after doing red Krugs Raptors, you see him on the Raptors, or maybe you see him after he does blue Gromp this side. Again, very similar to Rek'Sai in the sense because they have a lot of creative paths. As long as you have this warded, it's going to grant your jungler safety because, most likely Olaf would do red Krugs into that side or maybe red Raptors into here and you'll see him, or either way, you'll see him cross over this way or you'll see him cross over this way. This ward is going to give you a really solid side to lean onto. And it's just going to give you just a lot of safety and also prevent your jungler from getting invaded because Olaf can do the vertical clear, given he can start Machete if he really wants to. The only downside of this is that he can do some creative paths where he goes red Krugs into here. The only reason I wouldn't really think he would do that is because he might be a little doing this. And I feel like it's probably not as a common path. So a lot of the time, if you ward here at around 225, 230, you will be quite safe and give your team plenty of information. Now let's finally talk about Shaco. Now again, Shaco is one of those champions that's given all of us a nightmare, but here I'm going to give you a few really quick, easy to execute tips that can prevent you from dying to those Shaco ganks. Now, what you want to be doing, as I say, I'm a red side mid laner here. Again, completely flipped for blue side, exact same thing. Because Shaco, what makes Shaco so unique is the fact that Shaco, because of the boxes and setting up boxes, Shaco can get level 3 faster than basically any jungler, and it can feel like Shaco's doing a level 2 gank, but Shaco's already level 3 because of how far Shaco can get camps, those early camps. So the first tip is actually get your team when you're versing a Shaco to level 1 invade and interrupt these boxes. Because Shaco's going to look to set up boxes on the red or raptors or whatever. So you want to be walking in, try and level 1 invade, push them off, break those boxes, and it's going to really slow down Shaco's clear. And the other tip I give is actually ward these raptors level 1 at like 130 just before you have to get back to lane. Now what this is actually going to do is it's going to give your team a lot of information to see what path Shaco actually does. Maybe Shaco just gets red and completely skips and walks onto top side, in which you're going to see him. Maybe you're going to see him do like the red raptors invade. You're going to see him do like red Krugs raptors into gank or whatever you're going to see him do. You're going to get so much information. And if he doesn't, if your team can know where he's going to end up on after these first few camps, whether you just know he's on top side or you know he's done this invade or you know he's looking mid and you stop that gank, if you can prevent that from happening, he's going to lose so much tempo. And then even if you know he's on top side, at least your bot lane know they're never going to get ganked. Your jungler is going to know where he's going. Maybe you can contest him on scuttle. Maybe you can just trade scuttles. Your top laner can play safe. You're going to be it's going to make it really easy to shut down this Shaco in the early game. So those two tips can really, really help you. Now let's actually talk about level 2 ganking junglers. Now, there are a few junglers in the game like Jarvan and Xin Zhao who can actually do level 2 ganks. And I get questions like, what do I do about these level 2 ganking junglers? So let's actually let's talk about blue side for a second. Let's just say Jarvan and Xin Zhao can do these sorts of paths. They can go red into Krugs, into bot gank. This is a really common one for Xin Zhao because then it gets their bot pressure that allows him to invade blue. Then because he starts Machete, he can do blue Gromp, and it's a really, really solid path. And Jarvan can also do paths where he does like maybe red Krugs into through mid gank, or even another one I've actually seen is they literally just do red and they come through mid, they blow your flash level 1, and then they use that pressure that it grants the mid laner, and it actually allows them to invade the enemy red, or just go straight back onto their top side, knowing their mid actually has pressure for the defense. Now, again, one of my initial thoughts of this was, why don't I just ward level 1? Now, the downside of warding level 1 against these junglers is that it can actually really screw you on the back end. So let's just say, hypothetically, I'm a red side mid laner here. I know I'm versing a Jarvan or a Xin Zhao. And let's just say I've been told, and I think I may have given this advice, so I want to kind of clarify this. If I actually ward level 1 here against a Jarvan or a Xin Zhao, they might end up just doing a standard red Krugs blue path, end up topside, in which this ward's going to die at around 3 minutes because I ward at 130. And then I'm completely screwed because by the time they're active on the map at 3:15, I will have it's going to be very scary for me to walk up and ward anywhere because they're going to be already in river. And I'm just going to be shit scared. I'm just going to have to give pressure. I'm going to be really, really scared. So, I don't want that to happen at all. I don't want to be looking to die because of lack of wards, and I want to be able to see where they are. So what I actually recommend is give pressure level 1 and level 2. Just accept reality that you're just going to get pushed in and just heavy lean onto the opposite side. So if they're starting this red and I'm here, I'll just heavy lean here on the back side of the lane onto the opposite side of the red buff, so I'm really, really safe from these level 2 ganks. So I really don't want to give them that level 2 gank, and as long as you do this, then you can do your standard 2 minutes 30 ward here. Then if they do the standard path, you're going to see them in river, then you're going to grant you plenty of safety, knowing that your second ward can be used over here at around like 4 minutes or whatever, and then you're going to have safety for a very, very long time. So this is why I don't always recommend doing level 1 ward versus Jarvan and Xin Zhao. Alright guys, so what we're going to do now, we're going to talk about those pesky 3-minute 15 scuttle fights here and here. Now if there's anything you take from this video, one thing you take from this video, this is it. All right, you can ignore everything else, and if you can just implement this one thing, you are going to be having a lot of success in the early game within your solo queue games, all right? So, I've really been pondering about this. I'm like, how do I ensure that I can back up my jungler as these scuttles spawn? Now, an interesting thing, and what you guys probably might, like, obviously you guys know, is that for a jungler, and for all the junglers watching this video, you know is that if you're looking to get the scuttle at 315 and your mid laner has pressure, it makes it a lot easier to secure this scuttle, knowing that, you know, your jungler's going to be able, your mid laner's going to be able to back you up. You're going to be probably force the enemy jungler back into their jungle, back into the depths, and then you can even get like a double scuttle. Now, I've always thought as a mid laner, how do I replicate this? How can I consistently get pressure around this time? So I've always thought, because as Diana, I found myself this specific situation happening. I'm playing Diana or Fizz, and say I'm a blue side mid laner. And level 1 and 2, I basically eat dick. I just get destroyed. I'm getting poked under tower. And what I realized though, and as we know from my wave management video, at around, you know, as my next wave comes, at around 2 minutes 50-ish, whatever, this wave's going to be starting to come, and I'm going to be starting to slow push out, and I actually get level 3 first. Because again, the waves crashed here, I get level 3 first, and I actually get a little bit of control in the lane. And what I realized, this directly coincides with 3 minutes, getting pressure around 3 minutes to 3 minutes 15, which is really, really good for those scuttle fights. So what the strategies that I've been doing is against a lot of these melee mages is, again, slow building, and then realizing, oh shit, they have pressure at the perfect time where I want to contest. So if you're playing a melee champion, use this to your advantage. Get pushed in level 1 and 2, eat a bit of dick, you know, it sounds a bit weird like that, but you know, cop the loss, our level 1, 2, and when you get level 3, you're going to be pushing out at around and try and commit and get pressure at level 3 around 3 minutes. Then your junglers will be like, oh, thank God, my champ's ready is pushing out, getting a bit of pressure, and then you can secure that scuttle. Now, if you're playing a ranged champion into a melee champion, you have two options. You either don't push at all and really try your best to keep it in the middle, knowing that you want to start using your abilities and keep enough mana to push out around 3 minutes so you can back up your jungler. Or you hard push the first wave, crash it earlier, literally level 1, trying, if you have a lot of wave clear, crash at level 1, and then it's going to reset. And so then by the time you slow push the next 1 or 2 waves, it's going to be 3 minutes, and then you're going to be able to get to the fight. So as long as you're thinking about getting pressure around 3 minutes, you're going to be in a really, really good spot. And as a ranged player into melees, guys, if you really want to secure scuttles, again, be very careful of slow building into a wave and letting them get pressure at level 3, because that's when, generally coincides with the time where the scuttles are going to be looking to spawn. The jungler is going to be looking to get on the map, like I said, between 2 minutes 40 and 3 minutes. So you've got to be very, very careful about that, guys. So I just thought this was a really, interesting little morsel of information. All right, so what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm actually going to give you a few examples. I'm going to use this information, hopefully this information that you've gotten so far from the video, to give it a bit of depth through examples from my own games, and give you a few tips and things that you can actually do to reliably track the jungler and use the theory that we've gotten from this video to, win games, right? So this was a game where I'm playing Pantheon. I'm actually warding these Raptors at around 2 minutes 55. And what do I actually see? I see Nidalee there, crossover, then I press tab. So what you should do is you should pan your camera. You can see the first thing you should look at is actually what buffs do they have? Do they have red? Do they have blue? So which is the first thing. The next thing you should actually look at is the direction they were pathing. So we saw that they were pathing, Nidalee was pathing bot side. And then lastly, the thing you should look at is the CS. So we see that Nidalee has 20 CS. So each camp gives you 4. So 20, 4 times 5 is 20, so he's done 5 camps. So we know Nidalee's done 5 camps. Given that she was pathing bot side, I put 2 and 2 together, she's done blue, Gromp, Wolves, red, Raptors. And now she's pathing bot side to finish off her Gromp. Okay, because I know the Raptors are down, I know she has both buffs. She wouldn't have had enough, given it's only 3 minutes, she wouldn't have had enough time to do, red, Raptors, full top side, and then, come back to bot side. Like, it was very unlikely. The chances are she's going to her Krugs to finish her last camp, given that she's a full clear jungler like Nidalee, and she was heading onto bot side. So what do I do in a second? I know that she's going to be on bot side for a long time now, knowing that all her top side camps are gone. And I actually, what I do is, you'll see in a second, I actually ping directly on Krugs. And I could have done this a lot better. I could have actually optimized my pings. Look at that. I ping literally on the Raptors right here, the Krugs, sorry, right here, knowing that's where Nidalee is. And I know in my mind, she's got all these top camps. She's got both her buffs. She's literally getting her last camp here. So it's very obvious where she's going to be for the next like 2 minutes. I know that she's going to go for those Krugs. And then she's going to maybe, look for a gank, maybe look for a scuttle. And then she's going to reset and go back to her top side, right? And what do we see in a second? And what I should have done better is I actually should have done danger ping. I should have danger ping to make it a lot more obvious. But I didn't do that because maybe I'm just lazy or I was autopiloting or whatever reason. Or maybe that's just not part of my skill set. What do we see in a second? Nidalee shows bots. And for some reason, my Leona just ints. Which is, pretty standard gameplay in solo queue, but it is what it is. Now, my jungler, knowing that my jungler's already got this scuttle, I know that Nidalee has nothing to do. There's nothing Nidalee can really do. She's either going to look to invade the Shyvana, which is quite risky. I mean, she might invade this Shyvana, but again, I'm assuming this Nid probably thinks that those camps are gone. So most likely, Nidalee's just going to reset and go back onto her top side. There's no reason for her to go back onto her bot side because she's just gotten those camps. So if we fast forward here, I see Nidalee reset. And I know in my mind, okay, Nidalee's going to be top side. So what do I know? Here, I can either choose to use my ward, can choose to use my next ward on top side to, 100% spot her out for the rest of my team, which is another viable thing. Or I can continue to keep my these Raptors warded, knowing that she's going to do a probably 3 camp top side, or two or three camp top side, and then make her way eventually back down to this bot side. And what do we know? Fast forwarding, I go for a kill on this Talon, and because I'm leaning on the bot side, I know that Nidalee can only be top side, and Nidalee comes from top side. And I'm just able to quickly avoid this gank. So again, as you can see, pretty self-explanatory, standard jungle tracking. And if I was even more next level, I would press tab right now, see how many CS she's actually gotten. And putting 2 and 2 together, she would have 24 from a full clear, given that she's got 6. Or maybe she's got top scuttle, so maybe that's 30. And then maybe she's gotten like Wolves Gromp, or maybe one of them, so like 34. You'd basically know how many camps she'd been gotten on top side as well. So, yeah, so let's actually dive into the next example. So in this example here, guys, I'm playing Echo, and I actually got a nice little early 2 minutes 25 ward. 2 minutes 25, 2 minutes 30 is a nice little ward, guys, along that edge. Ideally, if I had more pressure, I would try and ward these outside the Raptors, like I said before, but I didn't really feel like I had enough time to do that. So I just ended up warding the ledge. Then what do we see in a second? For some reason, and this will happen in your games, junglers will do really weird paths. So Yi actually paths over this ward. And because I'm kind of too intensely focusing on my lane, I'm not able to quickly enough pan my camera, which is a skill that I need to be better at. That's one of my personal learning objectives, where I should have looked at what buffs he had, how many CS he actually has, and just kind of figure out what he's going to do next. Now what actually happens when a jungler shows this early, and they actually shows on mid like this, oh my god, this was so bad by Yi. I realize it, and now as a mid laner knowing how to track the enemy jungle, you can see he's level 3. I don't even need to press tab here. He's level 3, and he's got his red buff. Putting 2 and 2 together, it takes 3 camps to get level 3. He's only got his red buff, so it's very obvious that he's done a 3 camp top side. Look for a gank mid, which generally you would mainly see with champions that, like Talisman junglers. Usually you don't see with Talisman junglers and junglers that actually have legitimate kill threat at level 3, like Gragas or Echo or something. You generally would not see this on Yi. So now you can see how you can utilize this in low elos, that if you see this type of thing, now I know. Where's he going to be? He can only be going onto his bot side because he has 3, he's only level 3, he has 12 CS, he's got his red buff. So he's going to be looking to get his blue, his wolves, and his gromp. So not only is this good for me, this is good for everyone on the map. Now, I can ping my jungler, I can ping my team that is on bot side. I can, or my jungler, if your jungler is really good and you're duo with your jungler, you can do something like this. You can actually force pressure mid like this, and you can actually, now the Camille is actually invading the Yi, knowing I've got pressure, and we can actually do whatever we want right now. Like, we can dive mid, knowing that he's probably on blue or wolves, or we can even hunt. Ideally, the play would have been Camille tries to find this Yi. I back him up knowing I got heaps of mid pressure, and we actually kill the Yi in the jungle. Then Camille can take bot side scuttle and then go top side scuttle, get a double scuttle, and then Yi's just completely boomed. Okay, so you can kind of see how you're starting to see this jungle tracking thing's quite obvious, and it's a really simple way to think about how you can optimize your wards, where they're going to be for the next 1 or 2 minutes. And let's just say hypothetically, my Camille didn't do this and maybe stayed on top side or looked for another gank or went back to her jungle. I know that he's going to be bot side for the next like easily 2 minutes. He's got to get 3 camps. He's going to get this scuttle. He might even look for raptors if he's really bad. But what I could do, I could even test that by, you know, maybe getting a ward on my bot dot brush, or you can, again, I could use my ward again on top side, my next one on top side raptors, knowing that after he's done all this, he's going to go straight back onto his top side to do another full clear most likely. So you can kind of see how it's the trend. It's very, very simple, guys. So let's dive into another example. So in this example here, I'm playing Orianna versus Rumble, and what do we see in a second? Lee Sin just showed bot, and he's ganking bot for the standard, you know, 3 minutes between, you know, 2 minutes 40 and 3 minutes. Given it's 3 minutes and he's already ganking the lane, this says to me that if he's level 3 and has 12 CS, he's probably done the faster clear, which is red, blue, Gromp into bot gank, because he wouldn't have had time, and he's actually looped around here, so he's actually would have had to done those 3 camps, because if he did red, Krugs, blue, he wouldn't have been able to be there in time. So he's done that, or maybe he did the war jump over this pit. So he could have done that as well. So, but most likely he's done red, blue, Gromp. Now he's on bot side. I try to pan my camera, but I'm really focusing on my lane. What I could have done better straight away here is pan my camera, count the CS, see what buffs he has. But I do it eventually. Now I press tab. I see that he has 12 CS. So I know obviously that he's done 3 camp bot side, looked for that gank, got his double buffs. Now when this jungler's shown, I know that Lee Sin is looking after this gank. He's ideally going to look into this jungle, this river. He's going to look to secure with his scuttle. Then he's probably going to look to finish his Gromp or wolves, or maybe just wolves, and maybe just reset and go back onto his top side. Or maybe stick around for a little bit longer looking for a gank. Now, as a mid laner, you need to make a choice. And this is where the game gets quite complicated, and there's a lot of decision trees. And this is where taking control of games really comes into play. Now, when I see my jungler in this position right now, I have to not just look at his position, but I need to look at my jungler's position. Now, Graves has a decision to make. Graves has a decision. Okay, based off what's happening mid lane, based off what's happening bot lane, based off my strength 1v1 versus Lee Sin, Graves is thinking, can I bully him off and get this scuttle? So he doesn't, you know, maybe then Graves could even get double scuttle or something like that. So Graves, unfortunately, probably doesn't understand the extent of mid lane, because Rumble can just basically bully me out, and it operates within these early skirmishes way better than me. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to maintain pressure at the moment and lean into bot side before this Rumble. So that's what I do. And unfortunately, just because I get here first doesn't mean we actually necessarily win this skirmish. Then Graves just gets one-tapped, knowing that their bot lane actually has pressure at the moment. We get collapsed on, and then we just all go boom. Now, I could blame this on my jungler and just say, why did my jungler go for this play? He knows that I'm Orianna versus Rumble, and he just misread the situation. But I can take responsibility. I should have actually pinged back ages ago. If I'm really, really good, or like a next level mid laner, I should actually ping back on this and just tell Graves to go topside, because, or just clear and then go topside. Just ping back on the scuttle, because I don't want this fight. And this is where champion identity comes into play. And if you're duo with a jungler, you can really get into that discussion with your duo and talk about, you know, what you do and don't want as a mid laner. Do I want this fight? Do I not want this fight? Do we win this 2v2? Do we not win this 2v2? So this is where the game gets quite complicated, but you can kind of see from a jungle tracking perspective how you do really need to take into account both your lane state, their amount of CS, their jungle path, what they're going to do after, you know, your mana, my HP, my early jungler's strength. It all gets a little bit complicated, but you can kind of see how the jungle tracking element, I already know what Lee Sin's basically going to do, even if my Graves isn't there for the next, you know, 1 or 2 minutes anyway. Now, this is the perfect example of a 2 minute, you know, around 2 minutes 30 ward onto the blue buff, where I spot the blue buff there, and I'm versing more of like a full clear jungler. Now, this game I was actually versing a Graves, so I do a sneaky little 2 minutes 30 ward on the blue, and you'll see in a second how how effective this ward really is. So I'm playing Pantheon, so I know I don't really need to ward for a gank for Graves. I'm not really scared of a gank for me personally. I know I can just ward for the team. And I know that Graves is doing a full clear, top to bot clear. And so you'll see in a second, as it gets to, like I said, around 3 minutes, that's when these junglers, you know, finish their 4 camps, or do their 3 or 4 camps. I'm assuming Graves has probably done red, Krugs, Raptors, now heading towards his blue, or maybe he's done red, Krugs, Wolves blue, heading towards blue or something like that. So you want to see in a second as this, as it gets closer to 3 minutes, then bang. See, as soon as it gets 3 minutes, this Graves is actually on the blue buff. Now look how much information this gives my team. It tells my bot lane where the jungler is. It tells my top lane that they're in an isolated 1v1. It tells me that I'm in an isolated 1v1. It tells me when exactly I need to start pressuring my mid lane and what I need to do with my wave. Because in the next 15 seconds, the scuttle's going to be spawning and then I need to be there. It also, more importantly, gives information to my jungler that he now can make a decision. He can assess mid lane, he can assess bot lane and be like, okay, can we actually push this guy off scuttle? Can we push this guy off scuttle? And if we can, and Graves walks into river, he could even get double scuttle. We can kill him or anything, or maybe he literally just backs up straight back up into his jungle, in which Echo knows he's not going to contest this, and there could be mind games going on where maybe Echo does the same and then bullies him off top side. You know, maybe there's some next level jungling going on, or maybe Echo knows this Graves is really low for some reason and can invade him on his jungle, whatever it is. But more importantly, we just know what he's going to do. So fast forwarding a little bit, we know he just finishes his, I ping the Graves here. We know what he's doing. Now my Echo gets to prepare really nicely for this scuttle fight. And then we get to spot him here in the jungle, and we end up just killing this Graves really nicely and getting double buffs for my Echo. Now I'm assuming in this specific example that Graves was not expecting Echo to be here, because Echo is a Talisman jungler, but for some reason started topside. And this is the random things that will happen every now and then. And in the higher elo you get these really crazy mind games going on. But you can kind of tell from my perspective that, you know, this is why these wards are really OP. Because if I warded this and this blue was already gone, this would say something. Oh, did he just start blue? Like, where is he? Because that one might just change, then I'd probably be able to piece it together. Oh, if maybe they fakely spot and then he's topside. So now I know if that blue was gone at 2:30, he no way would be bot side. He would 100% would have to be topside. So you can kind of know through warding where he basically is going to be on the map. So yeah, I thought this was a really, really interesting one. I hope these examples give a little bit more context to some of the information that I've been talking about within this video. Now, one controversial topic that I've seen a lot on, you know, Reddit or in the Discord, whatever, is does jungle tracking even exist in low elo? And specifically by low elo, I mean silver and below. Now, guys, this jungle tracking stuff really isn't relevant for silver and below. And the reason being is that junglers don't even know what they're doing themselves. And a perfect example, my friend was telling me this. He was saying how he was coaching a silver Kane. And Kane actually started Talisman, but he started blue and then went into Gromp. And then he actually tried to do Wolves and actually nearly died off Wolves and just had to reset. So no matter how good I am at jungle tracking, I can never know what the hell they're doing. So my advice for a silver player is don't worry about jungle tracking. Just focus on utilizing your wards, like the warding guide, my warding mid fundamentals guide. Don't focus on jungle tracking. This sort of jungle tracking really only comes into play in gold plus, because that's when people really do understand, you know, Talisman and Machete and what jungle pass their champion should actually be doing. So don't worry too much of this if you are a very low elo player. And again, this stuff will start to make a lot more sense the higher you get, but still this information is really interesting for you guys to know. So when you do climb, you know, you'll be able to, you know, better deal with some of these higher elo junglers. Now what I want to do is I want to talk about some things that you can actually do to make your jungler's life so much easier. So all the junglers watching this are going to be, Curtis, you're an absolute god. Thank you so much for sharing this information. For mid laners, this is so important. I can't stress this enough. And especially if you're a mid jungle duo, you can use these few simple tips to incredibly increase your chances of winning games. Now the first one here, guys, and I see this all the time within my coaching videos. It's so bad. This is what I call heavy trading when your jungler is just not near you. So let's take an example for it. Let's just go through an example. Let's say I'm a red side mid laner right here. And maybe I have a Zac or a Shyvana or some form of full clear jungler. It doesn't even matter what the jungler is, to be honest. Now, maybe what happens is I see an opportunity in mid lane to do a heavy trade. And what I mean by heavy trade is maybe I'm trading 50, 60, 70% of my HP for 70% of their HP. So we're both very, very low. And because I'm viewing my lane in terms of just 1v1 what I want, I may think, oh, this is really good. I'm playing Echo into Orianna. Or Aurelia into Azir. This is really good for me. Yes, that is one element of the game. Now, there's multiple elements of the game. We also need to take into account, what is my jungler doing? We may find that I have a Shyvana jungle who's just, finishing her first full clear, and it's really low, finishing off Gromp and actually starting her recall, whereas we're versing a Lee Sin who's done 3 camp, is in the river, and looking to pressure, and is still on the map. Now, if I want a heavy trade in this specific example, this is so bad for my Shyvana. Because Shyvana doesn't want Lee Sin to have any gank opportunities. Ideally, Shyvana wants all the lanes to be healthy, chilling out, waiting for Shyvana to come back on the map, finish her camp, then getting ready to pressure. By heavy trading when your jungler's recalling or finishing up a full clear or in base or doing anything that's just not on the map, you're actually just increasing the chances of losing the game. Now, conversely, maybe you've actually got the aggressive jungler or the jungler who's, just come off a reset, they're full HP, got new wards, just got on an item spike, maybe they finished their warriors enchantment, whatever it is, then that would be a really good time to heavy trade. So let's say I'm on blue side, for example, and then I see my jungler coming through here, he's placed a pink here, sitting in the bush. This would be a perfect example of when I would want to heavy trade, right? Because then, if I heavy trade here, trade, 50, 60% of my HP or 70% of my HP, we're both low, I know my jungler is right in the area, in the vicinity to capitalize and turn this from a 1v1 into a 2v1, and it would be a really, really solid opportunity for a gank, help me reset, come back on the map. Now, something to think about is, if your jungler is coming up on the map, ready to gank, they've got their camps, got their buffs, got their wards, etc., this would be a really good opportunity to try and blow the enemy's gap closer. So if you're versing a Zed, try blowing their W. If you're versing an LB, try forcing out their W. Try and get them, or take an aggressive enough trade, or position in a way that you can force it out. Maybe you take a really bad trade, but if your jungler's right here, and you set up some CC, you can just kill them anyway, even if you take that bad trade. So this is little things that you can really do to make your jungler's life easier. Now, another neat little trick, guys, I don't even know what to call this. It's just a neat little trick. Let's just say I'm on blue side, mid laner right now, and I know my jungler's coming from here, looking to gank from maybe behind here. Now, ideally, I would want the enemy to position here, right? Let me actually get some colors going on. So say I'm a blue side mid laner and maybe my jungler's here. Ideally, I would want the mid laner to position on this side of the lane, because then they're going to be closer to my jungler and make it a lot easier for them to gank. I ideally don't want them positioning over here. So a really easy way to do that is, again, then if I want them to position on this side, then I should position personally over here, because what that's going to do is going to send signals to the enemy saying, oh, why is he leaning here? He must be leaning to the side of his jungler because he wants safety. But in reality, I'm faking that. I'm pretending that my jungler's here and he's actually coming in from the opposite side. And that's a really good way to force the enemy to lean onto the other side of the lane. So it's a neat little trick you can do there. And the last thing that you can really do to help your junglers is always have pinks in the river. Now, what does river control do for a jungler? Now, let's just take an example, for a specific example. Let's just say I'm playing blue side here, and maybe I've got a Sejuani jungle or something, and I have this pinked. Now, what this is actually going to do, it not only allows the Sejuani to more aggressively position in river and set up ganks, but when they walk into river, they know this isn't warded, so they can even potentially look to invade. They can do more invades. They can steal camps away. They can safely, camp bushes to set up kills. They can sneak rift heralds. Pink wards increases significantly the amount of options your jungler has. If this isn't pinked, your jungler's always going to be shit scared of invading, because oh, did I walk over a ward? Or they don't want to be walking in here and warding, looking for a gank, because they don't know if they've walked over a ward and wasting their time. Junglers never want to waste their time. So pink wards are like your jungler's best friend. And if you can do all these things, I guarantee you it'll be incredibly helpful for your jungler and increase the chances of winning games tenfold. Now guys, you can kind of see how with all the information in this video, what is one thing that goes hand in hand? It's actually map awareness. So the better your map awareness is, the better you're going to be able to play around your jungler, play around the enemy jungler. So map awareness is a skill that kind of goes hand in hand, and you're not really going to be able to develop this skill if you don't have good map awareness. Now, one last tip guys is if you're not extremely comfortable on your champion, let's just say you're new to a specific champion, you shouldn't be thinking about jungle tracking at all. You can't do any of the things I spoke about in this video, like, you know, jungle tracking, counting CS, looking at where they're going, counting just all this crazy stuff. You can't do any of it if you literally have to focus all your attention on the micro, the tethering, the range assessment, your mana cooldowns, all this stuff. If you don't know how to control your own champion and you're not really comfortable in your champion, then you shouldn't even be anywhere near considering jungle tracking. This is a very complex, very in-depth, high-level fundamental that it is important to understand the theory and be able to slowly implement it, but it isn't for beginners or beginners in terms of their specific champion. So this is why, again, I recommend having a small champion pool where you're very comfortable on 2 or 3 champions, 4 champions max, because it's going to allow you to free your mind to think about all these type of things that I'm thinking about the game. These are crazy macro things that someone who's learning a champion can't, you know, they only have so much bandwidth in their brain, you know. It's like what is it, like RAM in a computer? We only have so much RAM. We can't do all these things. So basically by having champion mastery, you're just upgrading the processor in your brain. That's basically what you're doing. So hopefully this video was really helpful. I know it was very intense, very in-depth, quite complicated. Some of you might have a bunch of questions. That's fine. Leave them below in the comments below. Hopefully this video is really going to up your level of play. Thank you so much for all the support, guys, and thanks for watching. Cheers.